You know what most gardeners get completely wrong? They think buying expensive chemical fertilizers or even organic blends is the fastest, most effective way to improve their soil. The truth is, if your soil is tired, compacted, or low on microbes, pouring fertilizers on it is like putting energy drinks in a car with a flat tire. It won't go anywhere. I've seen raised beds stripped down to dust, hydroponic systems stunted for months, and backyard plots where nothing seems to thrive, all because gardeners overlooked one simple thing: letting the right plants do the work for you. Today, I'm going to show you a wild weed that actually improves soil better than any bag of fertilizer you've bought, and how to use it in your own garden, whether you're on a small plot, raised beds, or even hydroponics. Stick around, because by the end of this, you'll probably look at weeds in your yard very differently. And if you want more tips that actually produce results, hit subscribe now. This channel is all about making your garden work for you, not the other way around. The plant I'm talking about is comfrey. Yes, comfrey, the one most people rip out because it spreads aggressively and looks a little messy. But here's the thing. Comfrey is a mineral magnet. It pulls up potassium, calcium, and other trace elements from deep in the soil and concentrates them in its leaves. That means, instead of adding chemical nutrients that just sit there until plants can access them, comfrey gives you a concentrated source of everything plants actually need. I've tested this in raised beds where traditional fertilizer barely made a dent, and adding comfrey leaves as mulch or compost activator consistently doubled growth rates in tomatoes, peppers, and brassicas within a single season. If you're serious about growing food that actually thrives, this is a shortcut no one talks about. Here's why comfrey works so well. Its leaves decompose quickly and feed both the soil microbes and your plants directly. Unlike granular fertilizers, which can leach away or burn roots if over-applied, comfrey breaks down into humus that improves soil structure while delivering nutrients gradually. I like to cut the leaves every 4 to 6 weeks, lay them around the base of plants in a 2 to 3 inch layer, and watch the soil absorb everything. In a small backyard plot, you might only need a handful of leaves per plant, but the difference is immediately noticeable. In raised beds, I sometimes add a full bucket of chopped leaves per square meter before planting, mixing lightly into the top 2 inches of soil. This isn't guesswork. You can measure the difference by watching leaf color, new growth, and even fruit size. Here's a common misconception. All weeds are bad. That's not just wrong, it's actively hurting your soil. When gardeners pull out plants like comfrey or nettles indiscriminately, they're throwing away free nutrient stores and valuable biomass that could improve soil fertility. I've seen entire beds revitalized by letting comfrey grow in a corner, then harvesting leaves for mulch. You don't need to let it go wild everywhere. Strategically placing a patch near high-demand crops like tomatoes, cucumbers, or peppers is enough. In hydroponic setups, you can even compost the leaves into your nutrient reservoir after chopping them finely and letting them steep for a week in water. The resulting weed tea is rich in potassium and calcium, perfect for fruiting crops. If you want to use comfrey in a more concentrated form, making comfrey tea is the way to go. I take roughly 3 kilograms of fresh leaves, chop them coarsely, and place them in a 10-litre bucket filled halfway with water. I let this steep for about 2 weeks, stirring every other day. After 2 weeks, the liquid is dark, earthy, and full of nutrients. I dilute it 1 to 5 with water before applying it directly to the soil around plants, or as a foliar spray if the plants are already established. In a raised bed, this might be enough to cover a 2 by 2 meter area per week during the growing season. The results? Leaves get darker, growth accelerates, and even nutrient-demanding crops like squash show stronger yields than if you had just added commercial fertilizer. One of my favorite applications is simply using the leaves as a mulch. Instead of letting soil bare between rows, Lay a layer of chopped comfrey leaves 2 inches thick. Over the course of a few weeks, the leaves decompose, feed soil microbes, and keep the soil moist. I do this especially in dry spells. Unlike straw or wood chips, which mostly improve soil physically, comfrey adds a chemical boost at the same time. And here's a tip: layer the leaves around the root zone, but not directly against the stems. You don't want excess moisture causing rot. In raised beds, I'll top dress like this every month through the growing season, and the difference in soil health is night and day compared to untreated beds. Some gardeners worry about comfrey spreading uncontrollably, especially if you have a small garden. The key is to plant it in a contained spot, maybe even in a large pot or border area, and cut it regularly. I usually cut all the leaves down at least 3 times during the season. This prevents flowering and spreading, while giving me a steady supply of nutrient-rich biomass. Even a single plant can supply enough leaves to mulch or feed a 2 by 2 meter raised bed repeatedly. Think of it as a slow-release, self-renewing fertilizer that keeps giving all season long. Comfrey works best when integrated into a holistic approach. Don't rely solely on comfrey to fix compacted or depleted soil. It enhances soil, but you still need to manage structure, pH, and microbial life. I often combine chopped comfrey leaves with homemade compost, a small amount of aged manure, and some biochar in raised beds. The comfrey accelerates decomposition, while the compost and biochar improve long-term soil stability. In hydroponic systems, I sometimes use a diluted comfrey tea in rotation with my standard nutrient solution. The growth boost is noticeable, but it doesn't upset the system's balance because the nutrients are mostly potassium and calcium, not nitrogen heavy, which can spike algae growth. One of the reasons gardeners avoid comfrey is fear of losing control over their plot. Let me be clear, you don't have to abandon your garden layout or let it take over. Strategic placement, regular cutting, and containment are enough to make it a supercharged soil enhancer without chaos. I treat comfrey like a perennial tool in the garden. Plant it once, maintain it, and reap the benefits year after year. In fact, after 3 seasons, the soil in my beds where comfrey has been used consistently is richer, darker, and easier to work than beds fed only by store-bought fertilizer. Fertilizers give you numbers on a bag, but they don't improve the soil itself. They're a quick fix, not a long-term solution. Comfrey, on the other hand, improves structure, builds microbial life, and provides trace minerals in a usable form. Over time, your garden becomes more resilient, more productive, and less dependent on external inputs. I've tested this on tomatoes, carrots, kale, and peppers, and the results are consistent: bigger yields, healthier leaves, and soil that retains moisture longer. If you're serious about growing food that actually performs, you need to rethink how you approach weeds and fertilizer. Comfrey is not a magic bullet, but it's one of the most reliable, low-cost, and sustainable ways to feed both your soil and your plants. Start small, monitor growth, and expand its use as you see results. And here's a final tip: keep a small patch going year-round. Even in winter, the decomposing leaves feed soil microbes, so your garden hits spring with an advantage no synthetic fertilizer can match. If you found this valuable, subscribe now, because I share strategies that are actually tested in real gardens, raised beds, and hydroponic systems, not just theory. Share this video with friends who want bigger, healthier harvests without relying on store-bought chemicals. Your soil and your plants will thank you.